Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Mark with Courtroom Visuals Consulting. Thanks for visiting my podcast trailer, PowerPoint for the Courtroom, hosted on Spotify for podcasters. It is a video podcast, so if you're not getting video, you might want to make sure you're checking this out on Spotify, not another podcast host, because this is a video podcast. This is my trailer for episodes 15, 16, 17, and 18. I've combined all of these into a single trailer because they all deal with something that I call non-evidentiary visuals. In other words, these are PowerPoint presentations that are not designed for presenting evidence, but for summarizing evidence, typically in a closing argument, or maybe even rebuttal argument, or what some states might call your summation. Maybe for opening statement, to the extent you can use things like this and use visuals, but it's for when you're addressing your fact finder with the evidence as opposed to presenting the evidence. In episode 15, we're going to cover relationship triangles, the relationship between three different pieces of evidence. 14 episode, all evidence points to. Episode 16, how to create timelines. And episode 18, how to create a horizontally scrolling timeline. Episode 15, relationship triangles, is just a way of showing a relationship between different pieces of evidence or facts in your case. In this particular example, we've got a crime scene, we've got a car, and at the bottom we've got two fired shell cases that have been compared with each other. Let's say the first one was recovered from your crime scene. The second one may be from a car. Well, then that connects the owner or driver of that car to the crime scene. That's a relationship triangle. We'll show you how to create that, including the appropriate animation effect for those two-way arrows that you see. And that's a rather simple non-evidentiary visual. In episode 16, we're going to be covering something called all evidence points to. This is just as effective for civil cases as it is for criminal cases. The one I have as a criminal example, because I have digital media that lends itself more to a criminal example. But it's just a matter of, as you're talking to your fact finder, your judge or your jury, you're displaying different forms of evidence that was presented in your trial, one at a time. They could be photographs, text boxes, audio files, video files, witness, right, scene photographs, and then all of that points to a particular person. It could be the criminal defendant, it could be the civil defendant, it could be someone else, if you're the defense, someone else that you're blaming for the cause of action or the criminal offense, whatever it may be. And in this particular scenario, the order in which I presented my media, including the arrows, is really just a matter of choice. You may choose, for example, to make the arrow come in with each form of evidence, but that's up to you. But I'll show you how to create all of these arrows, for example, that are absolutely identical to each other. They're perfectly spaced, and a shortcut to actually make these arrows faster than doing them one at a time times 8. So that's all evidence points to. In episode 17, we're going to be covering basic timelines. How to lay out your evidence on a timeline to support your argument. Timelines are very effective ways of showing your argument.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All righty, bye-bye.
And again, you can use different forms of media, photographs, audio, and video files. I'll also show you how to perfectly space events in your timeline. Let's say you're breaking a minute down into 15-second intervals, or an hour down into 15-minute intervals. There's a really neat feature in PowerPoint that will equally space out your events, perfectly space out your events. Right? This is the example of maybe a minute broken down into 15 seconds or an hour broken down into 15 minutes. In a prior episode dealing with text boxes, I showed you how to perfectly align and space out text boxes using the Home tab and the Arrange button. But this feature we're going to cover in timelines doesn't involve you going to a tab or a button. It's just a really cool function in PowerPoint that causes it to remember the space between line 1 and 2 and then repeat it between line 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and 4 and 5. A really neat feature. And then finally in episode 18, we're going to be covering horizontally scrolling timelines. In other words, you have more than the 4 events I already showed you in the timeline. You could have 8, 10, 12, 20, 30, 50. But instead of just starting with a brand new slide each time, we're going to show you how to make your timeline scroll horizontally across the page, where everything on your page scrolls at the exact same pace. And you continue your timeline that way. So it looks like one long timeline just moving across your slide. So again, we got audio, photographs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All righty. Bye-bye.
And video. But you have more events that take place after this 7:41 p.m. So I'll show you how to make all of this move across your slide horizontally, where you can then start building on your timeline and adding more events. Now notice the caption up there stayed static. It did not move. And then your new events come on. All right. So those are non-evidentiary visuals, episodes 15, 16, 17, and 18, the trailer for my podcast on Spotify for Podcasters, PowerPoint for the Courtroom. Again, this is Mark with Courtroom Visuals Consulting. I hope you enjoyed this trailer. I hope you're intrigued, you're interested. If you are, you want to learn how to create these non-evidentiary visuals, please subscribe to my podcast, PowerPoint for the Courtroom, and you'll get step-by-step instructions for each of these episodes, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Thank you for visiting my trailer. Thank you for visiting my podcast. I look forward to seeing you again soon.